This show is brought to you by Loud and Opinionated.
Just a little warm up. Didn't really put this in it, but to get us kind of to it and into it. So starting quarterbacks are established. Do you know any of them? Have you looked at the names? Like the Arizona quarterback is Wolford.
Yeah.
But it seems like all of the backups are known guys, and that's the weird part.
Yeah, all the guys you're starting are like they weren't the first picks though.
Exactly.
That's how I saw it
Yeah,
today.
it's really weird. It's like all of the first round picks aren't starting at quarterback. Josh Jackson's not starting. Philip Nelson is starting for the Admirals, but he wasn't at the beginning of the year. And so I think that's pretty interesting.
You say Admiral?
Philip Nelson. They have a T-shirt of him, Admiral Nelson. I read that today. Did I just
No, I didn't know about that.
Freudian slip. Did I just say I said Philip Admiral?
No, you said Philip Nelson for the Admirals.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, there it was. Yeah, they have the San Diego Fleet are marketing a T-shirt with a caricature of Philip Nelson, their quarterback, as Admiral Nelson,
That's great.
Makes
the
sense now.
knockoff Captain Morgan. Okay, with that, welcome to the Loud Sports Podcast. Today, we're doing the quarter season AAF review. Here we are, guys. We have to have picked a team by now. Jake, easiest one. What's your team?
I said Orlando because they're the closest to Tampa.
Okay,
Stick with the theme. All my sports teams are from Tampa, so
and you're sticking by that.
I'm
Solid
sticking
pick.
by it because they got the old ball coach.
The old ball coach made some comments. We'll get to that. How about you, Brandon?
I'm going with San Antonio still. I like San Antonio.
Sticking with them.
Yep, I watched
Sticking
them
with them.
both weeks now, so I think that's who I'm going to go with.
You know, it kind of seems like they were the team that was marketed by the AAF the most. They were on CBS week 1, and then week 2 they were they on NFL?
Sports Network. They were on Sunday afternoon.
Okay,
3 o'clock game.
It's because it's in Texas, man. They're rabid for
it's
football.
it's the Alamo Dome, and we'll talk about attendance at these games a little later too. But I think that they bet on San Antonio to be an instant winner as a franchise because San Antonio has had 2 home games so far. You know who has had 2 away games so far?
Salt Lake.
Atlanta. And Salt Lake, yeah, but the big one, Atlanta. I think that's kind of maybe on purpose as well. All right, but my pick.
I'd also like to point out real quick though.
Yeah.
They had more attendance at both. I think both San Antonio games than they did at the Chargers all year last year.
That's great. I didn't see that.
Yeah. Their
That's
attendance has
awesome.
beaten the
Wow.
Chargers.
I knew the Chargers they didn't fill that stadium they were playing in, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Why would you? You know, that sucks.
That's their fault. They screwed over a whole city. That was dumb.
Right. Well, you know, I was kind of waffling between San Antonio and Arizona, and I'm going Arizona. You know, they've shown explosiveness. I like the offense. They were definitely interception prone last week, but
How did they win that game?
they're 2-0. Oh, because they played the worst team in the league. Yeah.
Really?
Memphis is running away with that. We'll
talk about that.
Talk about that too. But the best team so far, there are 3 2-0 teams, and the one that we haven't talked about right off the bat, Birmingham. I think that's going to be an instant winner of a franchise too.
Yeah. I think that having those Alabama and Trent Richardson and all the other Alabama players that they
Right.
have, that's definitely, if you can pluck from Nick Saban, you're in a good place. And you know what's funny? Even
You're starting a spot up from the other schools because
Right.
the talent you can pick from.
well, and even if you get a second or third string running back or quarterback there, they're still going to be really good because that's just how good Alabama is. So yeah, I think they have a legitimate shot to be the I wouldn't say the Patriots.
You can see
of
their-
the AAF, but I could see kind of like a dynasty.
I was going to say you can see the style Birmingham plays is a lot like Alabama plays.
Exactly. This is what I'm leading to. They have a day one established identity, which none of these other franchises have yet. They don't really know what the team is supposed to be. You know what I'm talking about? You need an identity before you can win and be successful long term and know where you're going. What's Memphis' identity going to be? But they knew with the iron, they went with the colors, they went with Trent Richardson, and we're going to run the ball.
Plain
Smash mouth.
Jane, plain Jane, old school football. That 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Absolutely. And it's been working. And it seems like the fans really like it. They really like it. The worst team so far, there's 3 teams without a win. Atlanta, Memphis, and Salt Lake are all 0-2, which is the team in the worst place right now, that is in the most jeopardy of losing their fan base before their franchise even takes off.
I would say Memphis. Memphis has looked pretty bad 2 weeks in a row.
From a football standpoint.
In all aspects, really. I mean, their quarterback play is awful.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Their quarterback last week had 14 completions, and only 6 of them were past the line of scrimmage. He didn't even throw the ball past the line of scrimmage.
the thing is, Salt Lake is the only one I look at that doesn't look bad at 0-2, because they played 2 very good. Some would say the 2 best teams in this league. They've played them. They played Arizona and they played Birmingham the first 2 weeks. So I don't think that's
2 away games.
Yeah, on the road. I don't think that's a fair assessment of saying that they're a bad team. They just got a hard schedule to start. Atlanta and Memphis, I think it's almost a tie for how bad they are. Atlanta, oh man, Atlanta I guess Memphis did too in week 1. I just say they both ran out of the stadium.
Atlanta looked better in week 2, but they are still both 0-2.
The only reason I would say Memphis is worse than Atlanta is because of that Arizona game. They should have dominated Arizona. They had a huge lead. I think it was a 12-point lead at one point, and just couldn't do any. They couldn't hold a lead. And then exactly what you were saying about Arizona turning the ball over, Memphis was doing it right back. It was an ugly game, and it should not have been a comeback victory. But that's why I think Memphis is the worst team in the AAF. Is it? We're all saying that, Paul. Are you saying Memphis?
Yeah, I would as well. Sorry, I'm looking for my AAF preview because Singletary's the Memphis coach, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, okay. So we've seen Singletary fail as a coach before.
Yep.
Why do we expect this to be any different? He leads through something that was successful 2 generations of players ago. You know, I'm going to yell at you, and you're going to see my passion, and then I'm going to see your passion on the field. You know, this isn't playing for Buddy Ryan in the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
This is very different from a player standpoint. And I don't think that he should be a head coach. Like, maybe he's a great guy. Maybe he's a good football mind. Maybe he would be a great defensive coordinator, but I don't think he's a good head coach. And I think that's part of why Memphis will fail.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to win a game. And let's not confuse this. Atlanta is also pretty bad. Atlanta has looked terrible.
Atlanta's offense looked okay, but that's biased because of Akram Wadley's good run that I saw. But yeah, you know,
Outside of Akram Wadley, they didn't do a whole hell of a lot.
well, we didn't foresee Atlanta as being successful anyway. What is the possibility that 1 or 2 of these franchises moves within a few years?
Already?
Well, depends on how long their stadium leases are.
Well, every player has a 3-year deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could imagine them waiting after that.
I would
after
say
third
definitely
year.
a few years.
Well,
a
yeah.
team-
Okay, yeah.
Not next
Well,
year.
you can't
but
leave
no.
after 1 year. No, but once it is abject, like not in any way a fan grabber like Atlanta or Memphis is in the danger of becoming, you got to do something.
But what makes them if they're this bad in one city, what's going to make them more marketable in another city?
Well,
That's a fair
But
point.
if they're not good, that's the reason why they're not being very successful in this one city.
I don't know.
Theoretically.
but then
know
you could
about that,
completely
though.
rebrand with new players and a new identity as a team if you go to a new city. Like if you take one of these to Oklahoma City or Portland and rebrand them like the Lumberjacks or the
Bison or something like that.
Thank you, Madden 18,
Yeah.
for taking my... Yeah, those are my favorite places to move to in Madden. But that would be successful. It more successful from an attendance standpoint, at least, which is what they care about because it's merchandise, it's money, and that's all that matters when it comes down to it.
If they get more money, they can maybe pay players more money as well, which could help out.
Right. So, I mean, depending on, we still don't know the structuring of a CBA or anything like that for how much goes to players versus investors, anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of strange because they're pretty public with everything else.
Right.
I would argue that Atlanta could also be in that scenario because
Yes.
it's just so crowded, and the Falcons, the Hawks, the Braves. It's just so crowded where they're coming from.
Well, we haven't seen a home game yet, so we'll see what
Yeah.
it looks like after let them play at least one game before.
They really tried to make the East Division into like an SEC fan base kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the division and you really see that's just like they went for the Southeast, Texas, and the West Coast, and that's where they tried to grab football fans. And I think if you maybe you either move Atlanta and Memphis or both, depending on how they do. But let's move to some good fan bases. Which is the best fan base? Because we have some statistics here because they have put out statistics, but there's a reason that these might be a little inflated from what I read.
Oh man, Memphis under 12K. Yikes!
For just one home game, yeah,
That was last week.
under 12,000. That's the worst so far, except for Arizona, because they didn't release stats for the attendance of Arizona's home game. Because you can look at pictures of the stadium and
Empty.
it is empty. There's nobody on the ends. There's people just moving to the middle because there's so many empty seats. They just sit right on the 50-yard line. Yeah. Arizona's attendance was bad, which makes me excited to go there because I'll just buy the $20 tickets and then move to a better seat after the first quarter.
I think San Antonio looks like a good place, and I think it should have been expected along with San Diego, who are the two highest attendance.
They immediately
Team Showtime.
are success.
Yep, exactly.
Which is what was predicted by the AAF.
Yeah, I think
they gave them home games.
San Antonio has to be the best fan base because, like I mentioned earlier, they beat an NFL team in attendance.
Right.
2 weeks.
I think it helps that it's the Alamo Dome.
It also helps that it's Texas.
Yeah.
And it really helps that
Springtime
it's
football
Texas.
in Texas.
Yep.
Like,
and that it's San Antonio. I don't think that this would happen if they put it in Austin or Dallas or somewhere a little closer to an actual football team. I think that the location
I agree.
was
San Antonio
perfect
is
in
very
San
great.
Antonio.
It's a great spot.
And they're already reaping the benefits because it was far and away the highest in attendance. Besides that, San Diego, but for a very different reason. San Diego is on the rebound right now as a city, as a fan base. San Diego football fans are on the rebound. Oh, look who I'm with now. Do you see this? I got the better girl. That's what they're doing right now. They are trying to show that they are going to care. They're going to love this team because this team chose them and loves them. And so that's why San Diego's successful. But long term, with or without success, I see San Antonio being a winner no matter what. I don't see that with San Diego because it is the Southern California fair weather sports fans.
Exactly.
So if they're not a perennial contender, that would be interesting to see if the fan base continues on this rebound or if it is just a rebound.
Well, we were talking about it.
That was like a cow herd comparison. That was pretty great.
It's like we were saying a couple weeks ago that had to be the most slam dunk city of anything. I mean,
right.
Day one when they were forming this league, they had to know.
Everybody knew that's a flagship, and they even have a flag in the logo. That's it.
I will say I might sound biased because I'm actually an Apollos fan, but I'm impressed with their numbers at 20K plus because
Me too.
that's a good sign that Florida does still care a lot about their football. People tend to think because the Jaguars suck, the Dolphins suck, and the Buccaneers suck, that Florida doesn't really care that much about professional football. But I like that this is showing that they do, and I think Orlando is a good city. It's much like San Antonio. I think that's a good move to be in a still well known but smaller city in Florida. And
Yeah.
they got the old ball coach. So
Yeah, Orlando's been impressive.
I think it's in part because of the recent success of UCF.
so
Very possible.
I think that's a big
lot of
part
the same
of
fans, I
the.
guess.
We're talking about
Sure.
attendance because they had over 20,000 people, which is definitely one of the better.
Are they playing
so
in
far.
UCF Stadium?
Yes, they
'Cause
are.
That place is rocking in UCF games. That place that's pretty awesome to watch on TV. Even like they're loud, they're in it.
yeah.
And that's how I see the AAF as a very college-like
Right. That's
sport.
That's what they want to create, and so moving perfectly.
Oh, sorry. Did you know that they had the kid? You know the long-haired UCF kid.
No.
You remember this? It was in. He was like a sad. He looked sad or something. It was during the Fiesta Bowl. Anyway, they invited that kid to the Apollo's like fan event tailgating thing the
Okay.
day of their first
Yeah.
game. So I thought that was funny.
Well, the other one that we haven't talked about yet it's going to be a lot like a college atmosphere, like Alabama, Birmingham, they are everything about the Iron already because they are slightly above average in attendance, enough to be like, we're supporting this team. Their attendance grew by, I think it was 300, but it was 17,000 in both home games, 2 home games. And I think that's pretty good. Would you take 20 in one game or 17 2 weeks back to back?
I mean, they both sound pretty good to me.
Yeah, they both sound really good.
Compared to Arizona, where they just didn't
Yeah,
release.
it must be under 10,000. I think it almost have
Oh,
to
it
be under
has
10,000.
to be under 10,000.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we ever actually decided. Do you think that Birmingham is the best team overall?
well, we got to save that.
Oh, you're not ready to?
Yeah.
Okay. I do feel bad for Arizona because they look like a good team. Memphis 12K is not surprising to me.
Me neither.
They're just so unimpressed. They are the worst team in that league.
Yeah, they're gonna need some serious effort from the players to be able to salvage any sort of promise towards next season. Same with Atlanta.
The product is very important to attendance as well.
Well,
So
yeah, and
it's not just about what city you're in. You also have to play well. So.
That's why it's
Right.
working for Orlando because Orlando is actually a good team.
Yep.
So have you guys seen anybody that kind of sticks out as somebody that might in the next year or two be jumping to the NFL?
I mean, Gilbert in Orlando, he's been on a lot of NFL teams, but he's never made it. But he looks really good so far through 2 games. So if he can continue to play at this level for 8 or 10 games, he would have a shot because he's a big guy. He's an NFL size-wise quarterback. So he would have a good chance of making it to the NFL, I think.
I'm gonna
I think
feel. Oh, go ahead.
I think Zach Stacy is going to go back to the NFL because he's one of those guys that he is here to get back to the NFL. Like it doesn't seem like anything else for him. Like there's some younger guys, quarterbacks, or other skill positions where you don't know the name, and we have no idea if some people are going to be just AAF career players. But I think Zach Stacy is one of those guys that is hungry to get back to the NFL more than Trent Richardson, who should stay on Birmingham Iron for the rest of his career, and they should build a statue outside to him.
Yeah, I think Trent Richardson's probably going to get a job in the NFL. I feel like an idiot because they're on my favorite team, and I can't remember who the receiver is for the Orlando Apollos. Where's number 12? I'm gonna hate myself because I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I like the receivers for all the NFL or all the AAF teams because I think that receiver is the position where the quality is so great in the NFL that there's a lot of really, really good receivers who just can't make it. And so you see a lot of really good players playing on these teams in the AAF each week. I've seen a lot of great catches by a lot of different receivers. And I think receivers are not necessarily, I don't have a name for you, but I would say receivers are the caliber that could get NFL spots.
Yeah, I've seen Rashad Ross on Arizona is a receiver that I've liked so far, but I think that a lot of the receivers, technical stuff shows in a developmental league like this. Like the Birmingham receivers have had multiple drops over the first 2 games, and Arizona's receivers have been very streaky in terms of being able to find the ball in air, it seems like. And I agree, but I disagree that I think that receivers might be the position because they are at this lower level, like the same as the NFL, just goes back and forth between guys that make it and don't. Like your fifth and sixth receiver on an NFL team change every year. And I think that's going to be probably the same as at this level as well.
I can't find his name, but that receiver had a really good game. I think he could have a chance to join the NFL. And it's a lot like what you're saying, excuse me, that there's such a drop off with receiver, and sometimes those more mid-tier guys don't get into the league. I think Orlando has the best team. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Well, let's jump into it. There's going to be 4 playoff spots for 8 teams. So looking at the standings right now, I think that we would all agree on the 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs. I would say it's Orlando, Birmingham, Arizona, and San Antonio have all looked like they show promise on offense and defense. San Diego to an extent, but I think that San Antonio will
San
win
Antonio
more
beat
games.
San Diego in week 1 already.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That helps them.
San Antonio and Orlando it's going to bother me. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this league goes, because that might be the league blowing its wad too early, because Orlando and San Antonio, I think, have had the best game in the 2 weeks. That was a
very good game.
Back and forth, a couple lead changes late. And
I like the scoring.
High scoring as well. It was 38-23 or
it was
something like that?
37-29.
37-29.
And Orlando won because of a pick six.
Okay.
That they didn't get the 2 points, but yeah, Gilbert had 393 yards, a couple touchdowns. And that's the thing that I love about Orlando's offense. It is big play, high-powered offense. They're throwing deep balls. They can run the ball too. And again, it sounds biased because they're my favorite team, but I think Orlando is the best team in the league, and I think it's going to be that matchup with Birmingham is going to actually be a very entertaining.
So I guess we're kind of flying blind here, because I don't know if it is 1 through 4 seeding or you play the lower team.
I think it's
top
the top
2 in the
two
division
in
play each other.
Yeah, I think they have a 1 week like championship round, like East Division championship.
Right, yeah.
And then
Okay,
the championship game, I believe. I could be
so
wrong.
we all think it's Birmingham, Orlando, Arizona, San Antonio?
That's what I'd go with, yeah. At
Okay.
this point.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's look at that matchup on championship weekend. Arizona, San Antonio. I think that San Antonio would win that game because they have shown to be a more stout team. And I mean that they seem balanced and sturdy to where they know what they're going to do on offense and defense, because they showed in their first game they seem very sure of themselves in situations that they know everybody on the field knows what they're going to do. Like some of these teams, some of these plays, it's obvious these guys haven't been playing together long. But I think San Antonio is going to come out on top. Even though Arizona's my team, they have been way less consistent on offense on the whole.
They should have lost to Memphis, the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
That San Antonio defense is pretty good that I've seen so far. I mean, Orlando
Joe
put
Lanning
up
bias.
some good points, but I think Orlando's got one of the best offenses definitely the best offense in that league so far.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think Orlando would have an edge over Birmingham. But in terms of Arizona and San Antonio, I think that Arizona surprised me because they showed a lot of heart in that Memphis game, where they could have easily just been like roll over, because they were down big early on the road and they could have folded, but they showed that they were clearly the better team in the end. So I think that says a lot. And San Antonio has actually looked really good. I just mentioned how great that game looked. So that's a tough matchup, but I would agree that San Antonio would beat Arizona. Like a field goal. Like it's
I think it would be
very,
a close
very
game.
low scoring. Well, not
higher-
low scoring, but
The higher it goes, the more Arizona would have a chance in that style of game.
right. If it's an offensive game, I think Arizona can win.
I don't know if San Antonio has a lot of deep threat guys. They play very side to side with speed, more
Right,
than
exactly.
deep ball.
Yeah.
That's how
so
they play.
kind of how that would work in the other side. I think if it's a low scoring game, Birmingham's going to win
Yeah.
the East.
Yeah.
They are solid like a rock. They have the team identity that is so important because they all buy into it. It's like the Steelers. It's like the Iowa Hawkeyes. You know how they're going to play, and they're going to beat you at it.
But yeah, it's the same situation of what we said with Arizona and San Antonio, where if it's an offensive game, Orlando's going to win. If
Right.
Orlando manages to go up by 2 scores, they're going to win. I think it whether it be 10 or 15, 16, because the scoring is going to get weird. But if they get to a 2-score lead, that'll be enough, I think.
Well, Spurrier's shown already he knows what kind of offense to run in this league because they were consistently winning a matchup where it would have Joel Lanning on a receiver. And by how much it was happening, I don't think that's through just the chance of matchup versus matchup. I think Spurrier is probably the best coach of in-game play calling right now. Oh, yeah. Old ball coach has got it. And did you hear what he said?
No, I didn't hear about this.
Oh, and he said that playing at the Alamo Dome, he said he was surprised that the fans for this league so far, he said playing at the Alamo Dome was like playing at Rocky Top. Obviously, satirically.
Yeah.
Just a shot, but yeah,
I love it.
He's still the same. That's
it.
the point, though. And you kind of need a character to like that.
Well, I was reading an article about that, and that is, what we're talking about, building identities. If you got a coach that goes out there and is cocky and confident in his team as he is, that shows. That's why Orlando is playing very well, because they 100%, much like Birmingham, believe in the product that they are.
Uh-huh.
They know we're a high-powered offense. We're going to throw the deep ball. We'll get you in a track meet, and we'll have fun doing that. Defense does enough to keep the offense in the game, and that's what happened with San Antonio.
If only they weren't in the same division, then.
I know that would be such a fun championship game to watch.
I think they look by far and the 2 best teams.
Right,
Arizona and Orlando, though, if that's the championship, count me in. That'll be 20 times more entertaining than the Super Bowl was.
You want the two
high-powered offenses.
Yeah, you want the two vertical threat teams.
The track meet.
See, but my prediction here, I think it's going to be San Antonio, Birmingham. I think that's what's going to win out in an inaugural season. It's going to be who can control the line of scrimmage and has the more stout defense. I think it's going to be Birmingham and San Antonio, and I hope San Antonio wins, and I think San Antonio will win.
Yeah, I think San Antonio winning the first one would be huge.
Incredible. Yeah, cement the fan base immediately.
I would say Orlando, San Antonio, rematch of last week.
He's going with his team.
He likes them.
Orlando is going to win. Orlando is the best team in the league. They're winning the championship.
I like San Antonio, and I would go with Birmingham, I think. I like Birmingham. They look pretty good so far.
It's just what's going to be successful in an opening season.
Take your bad hot, your mildly hot takes, because you all know that my team's better. So.
You want the hot streak. You want the fun team.
No, actually,
we're thinking slow and steady, but we'll see.
You know what? In the perfect world, it would be Hot Shots Apollos.
And I agree with you. In a perfect world, that's what I want to see. But we'll see if these teams can get more, cohesive. My hope is every week is a better product. Ideally, that's what happens. Every week is a better product, and the best game of the season is the championship game at the end of the season.
Yep.
I'm just saying, Arizona, Orlando, better matchup.
Right, it would be.
More entertaining than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's our Loud Sports quarter season summary of the inaugural AAF season.
Take game.
That was the Loud Sports quarter season summary of the AAF's inaugural season. I'm Paul Rubidoux. You can find me on Twitter at Rubidoux Paul, if you can spell my name. Better to find me through the Loud Sports Pod Twitter handle.
Yeah, and you can also listen to the show on loudopinionated.com. There is an issue with Spotify right now. I have contacted them, and they've got an email, so it might even be fixed by the time this posts. But if it isn't up on Spotify, I'm working on it. And any other podcast service, you can listen to it there, and you can follow me on Twitter at @alumberjake.
Yeah, and I'm Brandon Plecker. You can find me at Brandon Plecker on Twitter. If you want to contact me about your hot takes, then hit me there.